Hey everyone, it's Chris, and you're listening to One Cross Radio. And today I want to do something a little bit different. I'll be honest, I know nothing about sports. Next to nothing. But I know a big thing for people into sports is the fantasy drafts or fantasy football and all that. Well, I'm really big into movies, so it's kind of with that thing in mind that this session is going to be about a fantasy film. And it's about a Jaws remake and who I would cast. Now, don't get it twisted. I don't want Jaws remade. Jaws is excellent. But the thing is, with this kind of fantasy film series, it's just looking at a movie I love or something that's a definite classic like Jaws, and who would be my dream cast for it. Why? Just because, once you get past that notion of how dare you try to improve perfection, how dare you try to change anything about that movie, speculating is kind of fun. So with that in mind, I'm just going to get to it. Jaws is a tough one to cast because it is a great film, a tremendous film, and it would be difficult to do nowadays. And I would argue that it needs to be actors that are capable of carrying, because for a whole good 45 minutes to an hour, it's just three dudes on a boat, and the shark popping up here and there, and the tension and everything created. So I've got some people that I think would be excellent for it. I would cast Liam Neeson as Quint. Even before Neeson started his old action spree, and Quint's not even that much of an action character, I've just been able to picture Liam Neeson really being able to visually look like Robert Shaw, the late Robert Shaw. He would look tremendously like him, and there's no doubt that Neeson could do the character justice, and especially the USS Indianapolis monologue. Neeson would knock that out of the park. Because Liam Neeson's an amazing actor. Don't get me wrong, I love watching him in action movies, just chopping people in the neck. He's so much fun to watch, but dude really carved his name as a big dramatic actor. Wasn't an action guy really, so I'd love to see him do a role where it has a bit more drama in it and a bit more acting. He would be amazing as Quint. I would cast Joseph Gordon-Levitt, good old JGL, as Hooper, because Hooper's supposed to be younger and kind of have a almost boyish enthusiasm for the stuff he's studying. He's in his early 20s, and yeah, JGL's older than that, but I definitely think he could pull that off. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt, to me, is a tremendous actor. I'm not able to watch a lot of the movies he does just because either too vulgar or too sexual, but the stuff I've seen him in, especially 500 Days of Summer, he is tremendous in. JGL is great, so I've got no doubt he would be a terrific Hooper. Originally, when I started having the conversation about Jaws remake years ago with a friend, I was like, you know what, I do Christian Bale as Chief Brody, and I've since changed my mind. Not knocking Christian Bale. Christian Bale's an amazing actor, who gives his all in every performance. As I was thinking about it, as I was writing the notes for this session, I just pictured Michael Fassbender, and that got me so excited. Michael Fassbender is such a great actor, and the thing that won me over with thinking of putting Michael Fassbender above Christian Bale is, especially in the first Jaws, Brody has some great moments, little father-son moments and family moments with his kids and his wife. And then I thought about X-Men Apocalypse, which is not a great movie, but Michael Fassbender is tremendous in it. And he's got that scene where he's singing to his kid to put her to sleep, and then when his kid dies in Apocalypse, spoilers if you haven't seen it, like, he just really carries that family moments and stuff with there. I'm like, oh my gosh, he would be amazing. Just, you could really see him as a father desperate to save his kid. And it would also be nice to see him in a role that's not as action heavy as the stuff he's been in. Like, don't get me wrong, which is like the third time I've said that this one. I love watching him be an action star. I love watching him be a spy as Magneto, to the point where I'm like, friggin' just cast Fassbender as Bond. And he's amazing in the Alien Covenant movie especially, and great in the awful Prometheus movie. I would just love to watch him do kind of a more normal person role, because Chief Brody he's not a super genius, he's not like a big action star or anything like that. He's very much a normal guy, just kind of reacting to what's going on and trying to do the right thing. And I just love to see Fassbender as him, especially with the kid stuff. And plus, picturing Fassbender, Liam Neeson, and JGL on a boat for an hour, those guys can carry that stuff, and they would make that hour seamless. I'd probably cast Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ellen Brody, which is a little bit weird, but I like her work. I'll be honest, the stuff I've seen her in mostly is Scott Pilgrim, and she's amazing in it. And then Live Free or Die Hard, which internet will hate me for it, but it's one of my more favorite Die Hards. Yes, it's not perfect, but it's a fun movie. And it's so much better than the fifth one, where, yeah, we're just not going to get into it. Die Hard 5 is so disappointing. But Live Free or Die Hard was a blast to watch, and I really enjoyed her in it. And this isn't a knock on her, but Ellen Brody doesn't have as much of the acting stuff to do. But Mary Elizabeth Winstead would knock it out of the park with the smaller role. I think she'd be great. This one's a little bit different, but it's just because I love his work so much. I would cast Idris Elba as the Mayor Larry Vaughn, the guy who's like, no, you're not going to shut down the beach, it's the 4th of July. I just love Idris Elba's work. He is amazing in everything he's in. Even if what he's in is bogus, he elevates like his character off the paper. And above the stuff that's going on. He was amazing in The Office. He is so underused in the Thor movies. And if you've ever seen his BBC show Luther, he is outstanding in it. And I know other people would be like, oh, The Wire, but I haven't seen it. I've seen clips and I know he's great in it. But Mayor Vaughn, especially in the first one, seems to be in such a tough spot and unreasonable, and I would just love to watch Idris Elba play that. And he has played excellent bad guys. Even though Mayor Vaughn's not the bad guy, he's still in the way of the antagonist, so I would just love to watch him in it. And then especially when we get to the Jaws 2 part, because I'm totally recasting Jaws 2 a little bit. And then those are the main ones. I know there's other characters who have smaller parts and you could really work them in and you could have some fun cameos, or just do what the original did, where it was producers and people who worked on the film, because it was just smaller roles that didn't need acting. But Jaws is a very heavy acting film. And then I'd cast Ben Affleck as the shark. Okay, I wouldn't actually. That was just a joke Kevin Smith used to make, because he was such a fan of Affleck, and I'm such a fan of Affleck. I have watched Affleck in things that are terrible, and he has been bad in them. But he's really good. He actually might be able to pull directing the remake off, so that's where he'd be behind the camera. I'd be fine if he worked in a cameo, because friggin', I'll be honest, I love Affleck. Jaws 2, I would love to recast, and especially if you did a remake of Jaws, I'd be like, screw it, do Jaws 2. Jaws 2 is a good sequel. Is it as good as Jaws 1? No, not at all. But it is by far the best Jaws sequel, and it deserves a better compliment than that, because Jaws 3, and especially Jaws the Revenge, are awful. Absolutely awful movies. Jaws 2 is actually a pretty solid movie. And the reason I'd say it's easier is outside of Chief Brody, there's not really any heavy acting to do. There's so many teenage characters and so many adult characters who are there, and their characters are pretty flat, but not in a bothersome way. Like, not everybody needs to have an arc, and so many people don't have an arc, that you could just have a blast with it. You could just essentially insert anybody in it, which is what I'm doing. Like, I would toss John Boyega in there as Mayor Vaughn's son, Larry Jr., because, one, I really like John Boyega's work out of what I've seen from him. I really enjoy him in Star Wars, and he was in another movie that just came out recently that was about racial tensions, and I can't remember the name, but I've heard nothing but good things, so it's on my to-watch list. So I'd put him in it, and the only other reason I'd want to put him in it is just as a little nod to Pacific Rim 2 Electric Boogaloo, where he plays Idris Elba's son. It would just be that little nod, like, you played his son before, so now you're doing it again. I would get Brendan Fraser, which is to play Len Peterson. I know that's a weird role, but if you've been on the 2099 One Cross Street site, I did a post a little bit ago because my amazing wife and I watched the Mummy movies, and Brendan Fraser is actually a really solid actor. He shows a lot of range, and I just love to get him a small part just to get him in there. And Len Peterson's character is very one note, but he's the guy who gets Brody fired. He's the guy who is like, no, it's not a shark. If you've seen Jaws 2, he's like, no, it's just mud and whatever when it's a picture of the shark's eye. Fraser could do that no problem, and I'd like to watch it. And heck, with the Jaws 2 remake, you could lift some stuff from the book where it's like the town borrowed money from the mob, and now there's pressure from the mob, and even though the shark's attacking, they're like, crap, we gotta keep stuff open. I'd do that just to give Brendan Fraser more to do. Bring back Idris Elba as Mayor Vaughn. Vaughn has a reduced role in it, but first Jaws impacted him so much, so it would be great to see Idris Elba pick that back up. Michael Fassbender would rock the role of Brody in Jaws 2, just as a man who's so certain and possessed and obsessed, like, no, it's a shark, this is a shark, when everybody's telling him it's not, and then it turns out it is. And then with all the kids, I know they're not all teens, but I wouldn't care. I would just bring in most of the kids from Stranger Things, because those kids are awesome. The Central Four and Elle, they're great. I would love them in. You could get them to play Brody's kids or Brody's kids' friends, or I know John Boyega is older than all of them, but whatever. Don't care. If the kids are cool enough, he'd hang out with them. I'm not writing it, so I'd get them in there. Heck, you could... I'd get the actress who played Barb in Stranger Things to play the character of Marge, who's a girl who sacrifices herself to save Brody's youngest son, Sean. Hashtag justice for Barb. Just to carry that on. Yeah, Jaws 2 could be a lot of fun just with... You could insert so many people, and it could just be a fun movie to watch where you're not analyzing it on the heels of its original. Like, you could have so much fun with it that it could just be a sequel, but a very different vibe, a very different feel. And there you have it. If Jaws 1 or 2 were going to be remade, who would you want in it? Who would you cast? Heck, who would you get to direct? Would you get a new composer to do the soundtracks? Would you just keep them as is, or would you be, hey, John Williams and John's son, do you want to redo this, reimagine these themes? Yeah, there you go. Just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope you find it interesting. Let me know in the comments who you would, and I'd love to have that conversation. And also I wanted to give a shout out to Hector Mire and the Faith and Fandom crew. They've got a podcast here on Podbean, which you should definitely check out, especially if you're a Christian, where they really look at all things geekdom, comic books, shows, movies, video games, everything, and seeing what lessons we can learn from these characters in the light of the gospel and in the light of Jesus, which is very interesting to me and very tough to pull off, but Hector and his crew, they just see it somehow. And they also talk about their favorite comics and movies and stuff that's just really interesting, in shows and books and other things. Be well worth a check out. So if you get the chance, head on over to Faith and Fandom's podcast or their Facebook page, or you can find them on Instagram. Hector's a pastor as well, so he's probably got some sermons up that you could check out. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. If you can, like and share, and spread One Cross Radio out a bit. Thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless. Take care.